It was trip day again in Miss Frizzle's class. Everyone was excited. We were going to the planetarium to see a sky show about the solar system. Arnold's cousin Janet was visiting our class for the day. "I know all of you will be nice to our guests," said the Frizz. We tried to be nice to Janet. We really did. As we got on the school bus, we told her that Miss Frizzle was the weirdest teacher in school. But Janet wasn't interested. She wanted to tell us all about herself. As usual, it took a while to get the old bus started, but finally we were on our way. As we were driving, Miss Frizzle told us all about how the Earth spins like a top as it moves in its orbit. It was just a short drive to the planetarium, but Miss Frizzle talked fast. When we got to the planetarium, it was closed for repairs. "Class, this means we'll have to return to the school," said the Frizz. We were so disappointed. On the way back, as we were waiting at a red light, something amazing happened. The bus started tilting back, and we heard the roar of rockets. "Oh dear," said Miss Frizzle. "We seem to be blasting off." "Children, we are going through the atmosphere, the layers of air around the Earth. I guess we'll be seeing the solar system after all." When the roar of the rockets stopped, we looked around. Everything had changed. The bus turned into a spaceship, and we were all dressed in spacesuits, and we were lighter than feathers. We floated above our seats. Far behind, in the black sky, we saw the planet Earth getting smaller and smaller. We were traveling in space. We had become astronauts. Class, notice Earth's blue oceans, white clouds, and brown land. It's beautiful. Look at how small the Earth seems from here. I think I have to go to the bathroom. The Frizz said our first stop would be the moon. We got off the bus and looked around. There was no air, no water, no sign of life. All we saw were dust and rock and lots of craters. Miss Frizzle said the craters were formed billions of years ago when the moon was hit by meteorites. Meteorites are falling chunks of rock and metal. "We're so light on the moon." "That's because the moon has less gravity than the Earth." It was fun on the moon. We wanted to play, but Miss Frizzle said it was time to go. So we got back on the bus. "We'll start with the sun, the center of the solar system." And the Frizz said the Frizz, and we blasted off. We zoomed toward the sun, the brightest, biggest, and hottest object in the solar system. Jets of super hot gases shot out at us from the surface. Thank goodness Miss Frizzle didn't get too close. "You should never look directly at the sun, children. It can damage your eyes." "You should never drive a bus directly into the sun either." She steered around to the other side and pulled away. "We'll be seeing all the planets in order, class," explained Frizzy. "Mercury is the first planet, the closest to the sun." Mercury was a dead, sun-baked planet. "This planet is a lot like our moon. There's no water and hardly any air," said the Frizz. "Notice the craters on its surface as we pass by." Before long, we felt ourselves being pulled in by the gravity of Venus, the second planet from the sun. Venus was completely covered by a thick layer of yellowish clouds. "We will now explore the surface of Venus," said Miss Frizzle. "We're gaining weight and we haven't even had lunch." "We will be heavier here than on the moon or Mercury because Venus has more gravity. Below the clouds, Venus was as dry as the desert. The ground was covered with rocks, and it was hot. It was about 460 degrees Celsius. That's much hotter than an oven baking cookies. There's no life on Venus, class. It's too hot. It's too dry. There's too much acid. Let's leave. The air was so heavy we could feel it pressing down on us. Miss Frizzle said there might be some active volcanoes around too. We said, let's get out of here. Our next stop is Mars, the red planet, fourth from the sun, announced the Frizz. On our way, we'll be passing through the orbit of Earth, the third planet. The bus lifted with a roar. As we came close to Mars, we passed its two moons, which are Phobos and Deimos. Compared to our moon, they were tiny, and they weren't even round. Long ago, there may have been water in those channels. Yes, but today, all Mars water is frozen in the polar ice caps or underground. Looking down, we saw a huge canyon. Miss Frizzle said it was as long as the United States. There was a volcano 3 times taller than the tallest volcano on Earth. All around, there were channels that looked like dried up riverbeds. We landed and we started walking around. Suddenly, a huge dust storm blew up. Miss Frizzle said dust storms on Mars can last for months. They may cover the whole planet, and we scrambled back on the bus and headed out. Are there aliens here? I don't see any. Don't be too sure. Mars is the last of what we call the inner planets, Miss Frizzle shouted, above the roar of the rockets. We will now be going through the asteroid belt to the outer planets. Thousands of asteroids were spinning all around us. All at once, we heard the tinkling of broken glass. One of our taillights had been hit by an asteroid. Miss Frizzle put the bus on autopilot and went out to take a look. But she kept talking about asteroids over the bus radio. The largest asteroid is only 1/3 the size of our moon. Asteroids are the size of houses or smaller. Suddenly, there was a snap. Miss Frizzle's tether line had been broken. Without warning, the rockets fired up and the bus zoomed away. The autopilot was malfunctioning. On the radio, Miss Frizzle's voice grew fainter and fainter, and then she was gone. We were on our own. We were lost in the solar system. Kids, I'll meet you later. Later. Come in, Miss Frizzle. Do you read me? Most of us were too scared to move, but Janet started searching the bus. In the glove compartment, she found Miss Frizzle's lesson book. As she began reading from it, a huge planet came into view. Class, this is Jupiter, Janet read. It's the first of the outer planets and the largest planet in the solar system. She shouldn't touch Miss Frizzle's things. But, this is an emergency. As we approach Jupiter, we can see some of its many moons. Arnold, are you listening? Boy, Miss Frizzle plans everything. We thought the school bus was going to land, but there was no solid ground to land on. Jupiter is a gas giant, a planet made almost entirely of gas. As we left Jupiter, we wondered and worried. Were we ever to get home?
Jupiter is so big that more than 1,000 Earths can fit inside it. Miss Frizzle, where are you?
The next sight made us forget our troubles. It was Saturn, a gas planet like Jupiter. It had swirling clouds and lots of moons. But the most incredible thing about Saturn was its rings. It was the most beautiful planet in our solar system.
There are thousands of rings around Saturn, class.
They look like grooves in an old phonograph record.
Saturn is the grooviest planet, man.
Next was Uranus, a blue-green gas planet with faint gray rings and moons. Some scientists think that it might be made of chunks of graphite, the material used in pencils on Earth.
Methane gas is its atmosphere makes Uranus look blue.
The bus was going faster and faster. We couldn't control the autopilot. We swept past stormy Neptune, another blue-green planet, 8th from the sun, and all we could think about was finding Miss Frizzle.
Neptune is the last of the giant gas planets.
We're almost out of gas ourselves, and the nearest service station is 4,000 million kilometers away.
We were going so fast, we almost missed seeing the ninth planet, tiny Pluto, and its moon, Charon. They were so far away from the sun that it didn't look big anymore. It just looked like a very bright star. We were leaving the solar system.
Is Pluto a real planet? I wonder. Scientists have found a lot of small bodies far, far out in the solar system. These bodies are called Kepler Belt objects, KPOs for short. Many scientists think that Pluto is a KPO and not a real planet.
Janet flipped rapidly through Miss Frizzle's book. Suddenly, she found something new. The instructions for the autopilot. We punched in asteroid belt on the control panel. Slowly, the bus turned around. It was working. We were going back.
Janet really saved the day.
When we reached the asteroid belt, there was Miss Frizzle.
Hey, that asteroid is dressed funny.
That's no asteroid. It's Miss Frizzle.
Boy, am I glad to see her. Me too.
With Frizzy back at the wheel, the bus headed straight for the Earth. We re-entered the atmosphere, landed with a thump, and looked around.
Boys and girls, we are arriving on Earth, the third planet from the sun.
Thump. We were in the school parking lot again. The rockets were gone, the spacesuits were gone, the bus was a wreck, and everything was back to normal.
Thank goodness.
Hello, old friend. In the classroom, we made a terrific chart of the planets and a mobile of the solar system. At last, it was time to go home. It had been a typical day in Miss Frizzle's class. Now we had only one problem. Would anyone ever believe us that when we told them about our trip?
We went to outer space today.
Of course you did, dear.
My favorite was Jupiter. No, maybe Mars. No, of Saturn. Of course, it was gorgeous too. Mom, make it stop. And there was Frizzle, Miss Frizzle, floating among the asteroids.
What an imagination.
We could have been lost in space forever!
Eat your salad, honey.
Attention, readers. Do not attempt this trip on your own school bus. There are reasons why not. First, attaching rockets to your school bus will upset your teacher, the school principal, and your parents. It will not get you into orbit anyway. An ordinary bus cannot travel in outer space, and you cannot become astronauts without years of training. Second, landing on certain planets may be dangerous to your health. Even astronauts cannot visit Venus, it's too hot. Mercury, it's too close to the sun. Or Jupiter, its gravity would crush human beings. People cannot fly to the sun either. Its gravity and heat would be too strong. Third, space travel would make you miss dinner with your family for the rest of your childhood. Even if a school bus could go to outer space, it could never travel through the entire solar system in one day. It took years for the Voyager space probes to do that. On the other hand, if a red-haired teacher in a funny dress shows up at your school, start packing!